Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Matheus Ferreira. Please, silence, please. I'm Matheus Ferreira, MPA candidate at Columbia University. As we arrive at our final panel of the day, we look ahead to one of the most important milestones on the global climate calendar, COP30.
Hi, everyone. Can I get a minute of silence, please? Hi. Thank you.
Thank you. As we arrive at our final panel of the day, we look ahead to one of the most important milestones on the global climate calendar, COP30, to be hosted in Belém, Brazil. This session offers us an inside look at Brazil's journey towards this pivotal summit. We will explore how the country is shaping its priorities in the climate action agenda and forging international alliance. Please. I'm delighted to introduce our panelists. Denis Minev, CEO of Behar and Special Envoy for the Amazonian private sector of COP30. Marcelo Behar, Special Envoy for the Bioeconomy of COP30. And moderating this timely conversation, Renata Piazzon, CEO of Instituto Arapyaú.
Good afternoon. Such an honor to be here in this moment that Brazil is almost hosting COP30, and not only with special advisors, but among friends that I consider friends for, now I can say a long time. We have been positioning Brazil as a hub for climate solutions. So Brazil not only hosts the biggest tropical forest, but is a hub for climate and nature solutions. So that's why we launched this report in London Climate Week, and we are launching here in New York a second edition including mining and carbon. This report gathers results in regenerative agriculture, renewable energy, bioeconomy, responsible mining, and circular economy. And we were able to gather solutions that are mature and solutions that are also able to scale. So to support this vision, that's why we launched together with Itaúsa and Página 22 this initiative. And you can access the report directly through the QR code. It's this beautiful book that we have only a few copies, but you can also access me directly before the session. So without further ado, it's really a pleasure to be with you both here today. You two are both working to bring Amazon closer to Brazil and to bring Brazil to the global discussion, so thank you very much for that. I'll start with Denis. And Denis, I remember one of our first meeting, you said to me, Renata, you know, like people from the Amazon, they're not, you know, they are not talking about forests every day. They are concerned about health, about education, about connectivity, about quality of life. And that's why I want to start with you as one of the leaders of one of the biggest entrepreneurs in the Amazon region, leading a company that is not related to forests necessarily, on your view about the biggest opportunities of the region, and what are also the myths about the Amazonian private sector.
Thank you, Renata. Thank you, Arapyaú, Brazil Climate Summit, for the invitation. So I'm CEO of Behar. It's the largest private company based in the Brazilian Amazon. And we are a retailer, financial services, and telecoms company. Our claim to fame came out in an article at The Economist a few years ago, when we showed them that in the Amazon, the leader in e-commerce, it's not Amazon or even Mercado Libre. In all of Brazil, in 27 states in Brazil, in 25, it's either Mercado Libre or Amazon who leads on e-commerce, not in the Brazilian Amazon. It's us mostly because of credit and logistics. You know, the Amazon is a very specific place of many peculiarities, but a few things to understand. So the vast majority of people in the Amazon live in urban areas. Around 80% of the population is urban. So when we talk about, and when we see projects, you know, I know it looks nice and picturesque to work with riverside populations, but that's not how most of the people of the Amazon live. They mostly live in cities. And the problems of cities in the Amazon are very similar to problems of cities anywhere in the world. So when Renata mentioned, you know, we don't talk about the environment all that much. You know, you probably, in the cities where each one of you come from, when you talk about politics, you're talking about health, education, and other issues. Well, it's the same with us. We're not talking about the environment most of the time. And deforestation, for most of the people in the Amazon, is not a day-to-day activity. So when we're talking about 80% of the population, it's much more than that in terms of GDP. So the solutions to the Amazon are actually going to be much more urban than rural. Of course, we have rural problems, but urban issues such as connectivity, such as sanitation, and all those are going to be at the heart of what we need to figure out in order to develop the Amazon and then start to solve problems. We take deforestation very seriously, but I view it as a byproduct of a very bad economy, of a very bad system that brings along poverty, but also environmental degradation.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dennis. Marcelo, going to you, we were talking earlier about the concept of bioeconomy, bio as life and eco as ecology or economy, and then nomos as rules. So mainly the rules of life and ecology apply to the economy. So it would be great for you to hear from you as special envoy from the bioeconomy. What are the most exciting bioeconomy trends today in your perspective, and how Brazil can lead and especially move these solutions to scale?
Thank you so much, Renata, Dennis, my friends, to the organizers of this beautiful event that I attend, I think, for a few years by now, in different capacities. My pleasure to be with you again. And my pleasure to talk about bioeconomy to many of you who are super connected to the topic, remembering where not only the concept, but what we are trying to solve with the bioeconomy concept, right? So I think the most important thing is how can we connect the dots between curbing emissions down, bringing nature back, and producing more, and producing a better way, connecting with traditional communities. So that's the puzzle we are all into. And last year, in November, at G20, Brazil led a discussion on bioeconomy and approved the 10 high-level principles for bioeconomy with countries that are not really agreeing on many things, like US, Russia, and Ukraine. They all agreed with the other G20 economies on what the principles for bioeconomy will look like. And I think what we're trying to build from here to November to COP in 2 months, and then during the COP Brazilian presidency that will last until November next year, when probably the Australia COP will happen, will be 5 main topics and 5 main pillars for bioeconomy. I think there is one which is on forest, the second one on agriculture, third one on social bioeconomy, fourth one on biotech, and the 5th one on finance. I will run very briefly in each one of those because I think they connect many of the discussions that we heard today from many specialists. So the first one on forest, I think we'll have, during the Brazilian presidency, we'll build a new instrument to solve an answer that has been coming up quite frequently. How can we curb down deforestation? And I think TFFF is a bad acronym, not a great name yet, because too many Fs, but the Tropical Forest Forever Facility is a fund that will allow us to pay for standing forests, which is a very bright decision in the sense that it will connect to traditional communities. 20% of the funds will have the governance with them, and they will decide where the resources will go to. And bioeconomy and conservation goes from the trillions to the thousands, right? And the problem is always how to allocate the thousands in a way that will benefit traditional communities. So this is one main instrument. The second one, we are creating with the help of many who are here, what we're calling the Earth Investment Engine. So a way to connect private sector projects on nature-based solutions with the financial instruments that were referred in the previous discussion, so connecting new instruments of finance to projects on forests as well. On agriculture, there is a lot to build, but the very important thing is how can we give a meaning to regenerative agriculture, and how can we bring the instruments of tropical standards and metrics in carbon measurement into the agriculture, so we can build new projects with the carbon market that is being put together during all those climate conferences, and I think we will advance a lot in COP30 as well. For social bioeconomy, the Brazilian government is placing the Bioeconomy Challenge, where the metrics will start to align and we will help traditional communities. This is really important because I was in Africa last week, and there's so many projects ongoing, like the Great Green Wall that is connecting 12 countries, pushing the Sahara back. They do need the resources for social bioeconomy that I think we can help to shape. And the Amazon, I know it's very urban, but there is also, the traditional communities are there, and they are thriving, and they are building new projects, and we will help them to do it even on a larger scale. And I think the expectation for COP is to expand that at least for 100 times, the capacity that we have to mobilize resources. And for the two others, we will cover on the next blocks.
Thank you. Dennis, I also remember one of the first meetings of the Amazon consultation, you also pushing us and advocating for a moonshot for the Amazon region, and that we should have a state plan that, you know, would, no matter what government is in place, this will be continued and be implemented. And you have been advocating for science, technology, and innovation as one of the possible moonshots for Brazil. So it would be great to hear from you how to unlock this potential.
So one of the issues that I often advocate is that you only build a modern economy with learning, first with productivity. But to reach productivity, you need learning. There is really no other alternative. So subsidies are great, you know, many different things are helpful. Transfers, TFFF, I think, is part of the solution, but you don't build a productive economy without learning. So one of our first conversations was about donations, and we were talking about the Norwegian donation to the Amazon. The Norwegians donated $1 billion. And my argument back then to the Norwegians, there were a lot of Norwegians in the Amazon traveling all across the region. My suggestion to them is that they gather the best Norwegians and send them to us. Don't send us your money. Send us your best people, because then we can learn. I think we would learn together, and we would have done, I think, wonderful things had they done that. Okay, we're doing okay with Fundo Amazonia, but that's not a solution to a productive economy. You know, a productive economy gets built with knowledge, and we talk about bioeconomy a lot. Let me tell you what I don't think a bioeconomy is. It is not us climbing trees to collect acai for Americans. It's great, you know, we'll collect it for you, but I think we ought to be doing much more sophisticated things. So let me take just a second to gain some credit here at home. My wife is here, and she's in New York. She looks like a trophy wife, but she's not in New York for that reason. She's here to do training at NYU. She's going to be training a group of medical doctors on the use of AI. She also she does it at the IADB and the IFC. And I like to give that example, first to get bonus points at home, but also because we should not be restricted to collecting acai. We should do bioeconomy as well. But we can do very sophisticated things. When we do bioeconomy, we really ought to do sophisticated things with bioeconomy. That includes science and technology. Now, I don't think the people of the Amazon have chosen in the past, and they've chosen by voting. They tend to vote to do soy and cattle breeding rather than climbing trees to do acai. So I think that's an important message. You know, we have alternatives, but that's not one of them. So our moonshots are important because we need real ambition. If you treat the Amazon as a cause or as a problem, I don't think we're going to solve it. Now, if you treat it as a place where Brazil reinvents itself, rethinks itself, I'll just give a brief example. One is science and technology. The other is land use. We have 500 million hectares in the Amazon, 90 million hectares deforested, of which 70 million is poorly used. This is the best place for Brazil to reinvent itself. It's more than France, just the poorly used areas we have. So we've been talking about examples of regenerative agriculture, agroforestry systems. I mean, we really got to get our act together to figure out how to use these areas well. Now, there are many alternatives, and we can get to them, especially related to COP.
Thank you, Dennis. We'll get more into the concrete things to COP30, but now going to Marcelo. Marcelo, we often say we don't do anything alone, and to do things at scale, we need private sector, financial sector, public, government, and academia, and civil society, and philanthropy. And it would be great to hear from you. How do you think we could connect all these sectors to accelerate financing for the bioeconomy? I think we have a good public of international investors that would be willing to fund bioeconomy. There are many challenges, but what are the criteria for accelerating the financing for the bioeconomy on the ground?
Thanks. And just to take the conversation from Dennis and the good provocation he did and connecting the 2 points. So I do think that bioeconomy goes beyond, far beyond the examples that we're giving in the last 20 years to how the Amazon was seen. And I think that's why we should encompass not only social bioeconomy, but also forestry and agriculture, especially lending on what you're referring to, recovery of degraded land, and how we do recovery of degraded land. Because the bioeconomy element is the added part of it. So how can we, at the same time, recover degraded land, but connect those dots that Renata is referring to? So when I was Chief Sustainability Officer for 2 open-traded companies in Brazil in the last 15 years, I faced many different frameworks, indexes, metrics, and when I talk to investors to issue bonds for the companies, there was always the question, which are really the metrics that should be connected so the investments could at the same time bring emissions down and bring nature back. And I think we already know how to spin the wheel on climate. We know the numbers from IPCC, we know the policies and where countries are reaching to via the NDCs, the National Determined Climate Targets from the Paris Agreement that will be reviewed now by COP30. We know how much companies emit via science-based targets, and we know their balance sheet on Task Force for Financial Carbon Disclosure, TCFD. So that is, one thing is connected to the other. What is really missing is how development banks and the financial sector is granting, as was said previously in the previous panel, how you connect the finance that is already in motion to those targets so they are climate effective. I think that's one wheel. The second wheel, which is really the wheel on bioeconomy, that's our generation task, and it's a mutirão, as we say in COP, and it's something that we have to build together, is the nature wheel, how we bring the 2 wheels together. So spinning the climate wheel on the right direction and creating with IPBS, which is an institution that measures nature. It is based in Bonn, should be based in Belém. We will do the claim by COP. That's one. The second one is how the national plans for nature, the NBSAPs, are presented and how they connect to agriculture and to the investments we're making, and how can we connect the science-based targets for nature and TNFD? How can we score that on the balance score sheet? Once those elements are together, when you lend the resource, you know how much it will decarbonize and how much nature it will affect or bring back, we'll start spinning on the right direction and bioeconomy will flow for sure.
Thank you. And I'm really glad because we have the final round on COP30, and now we have Ambassador André Correia do Lago, the president of COP30, with us. So he can hear. So he can hear everything that you're saying. And my provocation to both of you is, as we get closer to COP30, what do you want to see delivered by the end of the year? What legacy should Brazil leave? And if you had to choose one concrete action as a special envoy from the Amazonian private sector and the bioeconomy, what would it be? Who want to start?
So just a brief comment. I noticed that Marcelo used the word mutirão as André Correia do Lago was walking in. I know you're trying to get bonus points. You know, that's the word of the year.
I mean, you see the boss, you have to do something. Right?
Yeah, so, okay. Well, from the standpoint of the Amazon private sector, my aim as Special Envoy is to try to help create thousands of sustainable business activities in the Amazon, to generate thousands of entrepreneurs that engage in sustainable activities. My one ask, and this I ask of all of you, is that, you know, we figure out this carbon market stuff. Listen, I mean, if you put a decent price of carbon in front of Amazon entrepreneurs, we change the whole thing. I mean, we change the whole game. In the very few instances when that has happened, and my family, we fund a few different startups that focus on agroforestry systems, on taking degraded land and making it productive. Any decent price of carbon changes the whole equation. Today, that equation doesn't work out. So we can't bring the externalities in. It makes more sense to plant soy or to do cattle breeding. Put a price of carbon. That's the one ask, that it be deep enough and we really, really change the game.
Thank you. Marcelo?
I'll go on the...
And mutirão, so...
Well, starting with mutirão, which is an indigenous word that everyone understands in Brazil quite well, and we explain easily, which is a common task that we all know how to do. In the same spirit, I think my wish for COP, and I spoke to Ambassador about it a few times, is connecting the dots between nature, climate and finance, and use the carbon market for that. And I think we won't solve anything in 2 months, but we'll set at least the pace for the 4 stages on how I think we can all work together to shape up what the Dennis Martin Luther King moment of his dream will come true, which is the first one, operating with new standards for the voluntary carbon markets. It's impossible to run projects with $3 per ton, $5 per ton, while you have in Europe at the cap and trade scheme $72 per ton. It's a major gap that we have to get closer, and organizing the accountancy, the legal rules that will avoid double accountancy, that will make investors comfortable with projects on jurisdictional projects and voluntary carbon market projects. The second one is working on the interoperability between the voluntary and the regulated one. The third one, Brazil is doing its homework. It passed last year in November, the regulated carbon market. It will shape up by this year, together with COP, the framework that how this will operate, how we operate the system, and by next year, how can we exchange on the 4th pillar, on the 4th and final stage, how can we use the Paris Agreement 6.2 instrument to exchange between those who are willing to exchange. So creating the coalition of the willing between Brazil, Canada, Brazil, Australia, Australia, China, so we can work on a framework that will help carbon markets to be established. Once we do that, we'll allow the projects on forestries to flourish, the projects on agriculture to flourish, and social bioeconomy to flourish as well. So this is, I think, a common dream. We are about to get there.
Thank you so much. It's really an honor to be with both of you today. I think it's very clear that we don't have only, Brazil has not only a responsibility, it has a unique opportunity to lead on climate solutions and bioeconomy solutions. And this is the Brazil we want to showcase at COP30. So thank you both so much, and mutirão.